Good evening, everyone. Our last speaker has very well taken. Our last speaker has very well discussed about the preparation for the diagnostic radiology procedure which are to be done. And for the interventional radiology, as you all know, interventional radiology offers many techniques that avoid the need for the surgery. And these are the minimally invasive procedure which are done with the image guidance, under the image guidance, and through a very small incision or a needle prick, the procedure is done. And this avoids the major need of multiple stitches which are generally placed in traditional surgery. But these are the minimal invasive procedure. But although minimal, these are the invasive procedures, so they have to be planned accordingly. And most of the planning should be done like as the planning for most of the surgical procedure has to be done. And there are a specific set of instructions which should be given to the referring physician and also to the patient. So for the IR procedure, the referring physician instructions should be before an examination a clear-cut written order of for what the for physician. There should be a clear-cut order from the physician for what is the main indication for the IR procedure, for what the IR procedure is to be done. And for better planning of the IR procedure, specific clear-cut instructions should be done, and pre-op investigations like the lab investigation should be recent one, not more than 2 weeks. Complete blood count should be there. The LFT, KFT, and other metabolic panel, if required, should be done beforehand. And the coagulation profile, the PT, APTT of the patient, and the platelet count should be done and should be reviewed before the procedure. And the viral markers. Viral markers generally, in the present time, we are taking COVID-19 RT-PCR reports of minimum of within 7-day duration and not beyond that duration. And for HBsAg, HIV, and HCV, we are taking it for around 15 days. And there should be clear-cut past and present medical history, and any drug allergy history should be noted on the patient sheet and should be told to the IR people before any procedure is done. And for the patient, there should be a specific clear-cut instruction that he or she should not eat or drink after the midnight. But this is not a universal statement. Like any patient who is taking antihypertensive in the morning is allowed to take antihypertensive in the morning, and he should take antihypertensive in the morning with a sip of water, but nothing solid to be taken. And about discontinuing aspirin or blood thinner 7 days before the procedure, most of the time this is taken as a universal statement, but this is again not a universal statement, because for some of the investigations where angioplasty or a stent-assisted coiling or a flow diverter or any procedure where a bare metal stent is planted, the aspirin or a dual antiplatelet are prescribed, and they are given 5 or 7 days before the procedures. So for every procedure, aspirin or dual antiplatelet are not contraindicated, but for the procedures where a PCT is done and coagulation profile is deranged, then one can think of avoiding or stopping antiplatelets for 1 or 3 days or 5 days before the procedures. And regarding the anticoagulant like the warfarin and the acetylene, it's better to, when a major procedure is planned, it's better to convert them into IV heparin if it cannot be stopped beforehand. And regarding the part preparation, the site of entry of the procedure, like if it is to be done from the femoral side, then the groin saving is to be done. If the procedure is to be done from the radial or the brachial side, then the hairs around the site of puncture should be removed. And the peripheral venous access lines should be placed beforehand a patient is shifted to IR room. Sometimes we have seen in our practice that a patient enters a DSA room, seeing the atmosphere, get anxious, and sometimes you collapse there only. Then it becomes very difficult to get a IV line in place when a patient is collapsing. So it's always better to have an IV line beforehand. The radiological procedure have been categorized according to the risk of bleeding. So there have been 3 categories. The category 1 are the procedure with low risk of bleeding or where the bleeding that can be easily detected and controlled, like the aspiration procedure, like the paracentesis or the thoracentesis, PICC line insertion, catheter exchange, superficial biopsy, IVC filter placement, venography, joint injection and aspiration. For these type of procedure, nil per orally is not required. Patient is allowed to have anything, but not before 1 hour before the procedure, but he can have nil orally is not required. And an informed consent from the patient, or if patient is not in a mentally fit state to give his consent, then only the consent from the attendant should be taken before a IR procedure is done. And for lab investigation, INR and platelets are not routinely recommended for category 1 low risk bleeding procedures. Creatinine is to be done if venography or IVC filter is required. And for category 2, where the procedure are the moderate risk of bleeding is there, like the abscess drainage, the angiography, is the embolization, diagnostics, thrombolysis, angioplasty or stenting is planned, the biopsy of the solid organ like the liver, lung, pancreas, skeleton, paraortic nodes is being planned, the chest tube insertion, gastrostomy insertion, lumbar puncture, permacath insertion, percutaneous cholecystostomy or the transjugular liver biopsy is being planned. Then NPO of 4 hours, minimum 4 hours is required. And INR, APTT, platelet, and creatinine are required. Creatinine only if the angiography is needed. And the threshold for INR here should be below 1.5. It should be less than 1.5. And platelet count should be more than 50,000. Generally, here we prefer it should be between 70 to 80,000, but the guidelines say it should be more than 50,000 is good enough. And the category 3, where the procedure with high risk of bleeding is there, bleeding which is difficult to detect or control, like the biliary drain insertion, nephrostomy tube insertion, the kidney biopsy. Again, the patient is 4 hour NPO is required, and the INR should be below 1.5. Here, the APT also comes into role. The APT should be corrected between 1.5 times of the normal, and the platelet count again it should be more than 50,000. INR and platelet investigations are routinely required. Most of the image-guided biopsy, like the superficial biopsy, comes under low-risk procedure, and the deep organ biopsy, the solid organ biopsy, like the lung, liver, pancreas, skeleton, comes under the moderate risk of procedures. And the transjugular liver biopsy again comes under moderate risk, but the renal biopsy comes under high risk of bleeding procedure. And you can see here in where it has written it should be done in the before 1300 hours or should be done in the morning hours. This is because so that the adequate time for sample preparation or specimen preparation for the histopathology people is there. For the neuroradiological intervention, nil orally again after midnight is required. For any therapeutic procedure which is to be done under general anesthesia, nil orally for 6 to 8 hours, 8 hours for solid and 6 hours for liquid is definitely required. All medication with a sip of water is to be taken in the morning, early morning at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. Patient should take all antihypertensive or any antiepileptic medication which patient is taken in the morning. Again, for the anticoagulant, it's better to switch to heparin if possible. And before any procedure is planned or is been done, it should be described in short or regarding what the procedure is planned for, the indication for the procedure, the risk of the procedure, the complication of the procedure, the short-term complication, the long-term complication to the patient and also to the attendant. If the patient is able to understand, it's fine. If patient is not in a mental state to understand, then first degree attendant should be told about the risk complication and the procedure should be described. And review of all the previous imaging. Patients should always carry his or previous imaging to the angiographic suite, and it should be reviewed beforehand a procedure is been started. IR procedure most of the time are done under local anesthesia, but every procedure cannot be done under local anesthesia. There are certain indications for the general anesthesia procedure, like the procedure where the procedure time is long. patient cannot lie straight and stable for a longer period of time, then a general anesthesia required. For uncooperative patient, general anesthesia required. And the procedure where a very fine precision is required. The margin of error is very less. Like in neurointervention where aneurysm of 2 or 3 mm is being coiled, the precision should be very, the margin of error is very less. So these procedures are to be done under general anesthesia. And for the general anesthesia workup, some more blood investigations are required for the anesthesia workup along with the ECG and chest X-ray. And preferably, it's better to get a pre-anesthetic checkup a night before the procedure. And if ventilatory, if a suspicion of ventilatory delayed extubation is there, then arrange a ventilatory support post-procedure should be done beforehand. And not only the pre-procedure planning is there, we have to also look for the post-procedure, like look for any increase in site of swelling at the site of puncture. Any increase in swelling at the site of puncture should be looked. And the lower limb, if the procedure is like angiography done from the right lower limb side, then the right lower limb immobilization for 6 to 8 hours is mandatory and should be done. It should be told to the patient and also to the attendant to make the right limb immobilized, hold the right limb for 6 to 8 hours. Look for any fall of hemoglobin if patient is involved. Look for any breathlessness. In a case of any lung biopsy and patient is having breathlessness after 2 or 3 hours of lung biopsy, it's very urgent to get a repeat chest X-ray and look for any pneumothorax or any increase in pneumothorax, any decrease in sensorium, for any supra-aortic intervention, which is intervention done in the region of neck or in the carotid. Any decrease in sensorium should be immediately inform the interventional team, and they will plan accordingly whether a CT or a MRI is required. And if contrast is used in a IR procedure, it's better to do adequate hydration post procedure also. And few words about diabetic patients, like our earlier speaker has also told, the American College of Radiology recommend to withhold metformin for 48 hours before elective procedures. Now, again, they have divided them patients into 3 categories. Category 1 with normal renal function and no known comorbidities, no need to discontinue. In category 2, multiple comorbidities are there, but have apparently normal renal function. Then metformin should be discontinued at the time of procedure only. And it should be withheld for 48 hours after procedure with no special need to repeat assessment of renal function. And for category 3, with known renal dysfunction, metformin should be discontinued at the time of procedure and should be restarted only after renal function is reassured. Again, for the use of prophylactic antibiotic in cases of vascular and IR procedures, there has been a standard of practice SOP guidelines from the Society of Intervention Radiology, and they have said that they have divided the procedures into the type of wound. If the wound is clean, contaminated, or dirty, they have decided whether the prophylactic antibiotic should be given or not. They have said that the clean wound is any wound where the procedure is performed without active inflammation and does not, there is no breach in sterile technique, and it does not violate GI, genitourinary or respiratory tract like the conventional angiography. It's a clean procedure. The clean contaminated procedure, which are done without active inflammation, no breach in sterile technique, but it enters the GI, GE or respiratory tract, like the nephrostomy tube placement in absence of UTI. The contaminated procedures are those that enter through an inflamed area, colonize GI, GE or respiratory tract, and if there is a major breach in aseptic techniques, like PTBT, percutaneous cholecystomy tube placement for acute cholecystitis, and dirty procedures are like the asphalt drainage or the percutaneous nephrostomy drainage for pyonephrosis. And the timing of antibiotic should be given within 1 hour of incision or the needle prick. And the type of antibiotic they have said for the broad spectrum antibiotic. And there is a long list of procedures, so I have summarized them. Like for the diagnostic cranial angiography, prophylactic antibiotic is not required. For angioplasty, for bare metal placement, no prophylactic antibiotic is required. But for the endograft, for the arterial graft procedures, they have recommended single dose of prophylactic antibiotic. For catheter-directed thrombolysis, again there is no specific recommendation, but a single dose of antibiotic should be given. This should be targeted to the skin flora. For uterine artery embolization, single dose. For hepatic embolization and chemoembolization, the use of prophylactic antibiotic against the gram-positive skin flora and gram-negative enteric flora is recommended. For PTBD tips, the same recommendation is there. For biopsies, no prophylactic antibiotic is required except for transrectal prostatic biopsy. For PCD and for the tunnel permacath or the chemoport, yes, the prophylactic antibiotic are to be given. So if I summarize, for any radiological interventional radiological procedure, a basic pre-op investigation should be done, which include the CBC, the coagulation profile, and the URL marker. The instructions should be clear to the patient and to the physician, should be clear from them and to them also. What procedure we are undertaking and what the anticipated result are to be expected, what risk and complication can happen. And there should be review of prior imaging and planning a procedure with specific indication in must to determine the best course of therapy for the patient. Thank you.